All right, so what we just saw was how we can have all these different users, regardless of where they are, get access to, really any type of application. Not even just what we think of as a traditional Citrix application, but now we're being able to pull in other apps, that we saw with like, even like Google Beyond Corp. But something that always is in the back of people's mind, especially when we talk about, this whole flexible work, remote work, this whole adaptive workplace is security.
Yeah, no, for sure. I agree, Dan. I think it's one of those things that security is top of mind, and especially just in the ecosystem that we live in today, right? Like there's just, I feel like you hear more and more, and it's like first you hear about phishing attacks, and now it's beyond. And so for today's session, we decided to invite two experts, Martin Sujek and Frank Bunger, who are just security experts, and will talk to us about some really cool things. So I think first, why don't we invite Martin? Martin is a senior architect on me and Dan's team.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Martin Zujek. I'm senior architect, and today we will be talking about phishing. I have a little bit crazy situation here. So what we are looking at is the data breach investigations report for 2020. And what you can see is like the phishing is by far the #1 attack that we are having, and we are seeing it everywhere because like all the industries. Can you be presenter for me for this one, please, just for a second? I send you the slides and you can have a look at them, and I will try to connect from another room if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine, Martin.
Okay, perfect. And that's exactly how you are doing the phishing attacks. And we've seen the simple scams like getting email from Nigerian prince. There are also more professional attacks that are very specifically aimed. Anna, I'm very sorry, it was Dan's idea to do it this way. Pretty much all the phishing attacks that we have are going through 3 common stages. It's the bait, the hook, the catch. And as I said before, you can go from very primitive attack to very, very professional attacks. Some of those are taking the months. But if we are thinking about the most common methods that we are seeing, it's going to be by email. So we know in 2020, about 96% of the phishing attacks actually came by email. And the way how this works, almost always the same. You get an email, there is some hook, the bait. You click on it, you are going to connect to malicious server, and you are going to download and execute the payload, executable VBS script, whatever it is, different approaches. As soon as you install this, the payload itself is going to connect to the command and control server. This is the server owned by the criminal. And the command and control server, you are kind of going to register to the network saying, I've been compromised. And the final step is command and control server is going to send you further instructions. This can be simple keylogger, for example, if attackers want to know your password and the username, or it can be the ransomware attack that is going to spread to all the machines that are surrounding you. Now, what most companies are doing to prevent phishing is really, really hard to prevent. And what most companies are doing is that they kind of limit to the training employees, so having the security awareness training, doing the simulated testing, so you will get emails and they are measuring how many employees are clicking on it. And then there is kind of a huge gap. Maybe sometimes there is antivirus. And at the end, the only solution is let's implement the multi-factor authentication. So if the machine has been compromised, it's going to be much harder to get anywhere else. And this is it. So as I said, we are kind of trying to prevent the attacks. Then there is very big gap where we don't really do anything to prevent the phishing attacks. And at the end, we are just trying to limit the impact of successful attack. Now, if you've joined one of the Citrix Security Summit, there was an announcement about the secure internet access. And we will talk about this more in Q1. It was not released yet, but I'm like super excited about this technology because I started working with it and playing with it. And what this is actually designed to do is to prevent scenarios or situations like this. Now, most commonly, the secure internet access is going to be implemented or integrated with Citrix SD-WAN. So all the machines that you have are going to be protected by appliance. But what you can also do is that you can deploy it as an agent, and this can be done on, I don't know, any laptops that you have. This can be done on the VDI virtual desktops that you have. You can easily use it. And now, to kind of explain to you in very short time that we have what this does and how this works, historically, whenever we were talking about the phishing, we would talk about protecting the hosted Outlook, for example, running on the virtual server somewhere. Or we were talking about protecting the webmail by applying the policies and the watermark and so on. Now, what can we do to protect like a normal locally installed Outlook, for example? Or what can we do to protect like any browser that you have on the endpoints? All the technology that we had before were mostly focused on the managed web and SaaS and Windows applications. This is designed to protect those unmanaged devices, and this is designed to protect those unmanaged web and SaaS applications. So what we are going to do with Citrix Secure Internet Access, and again, this can be done through SD-WAN or it can be done as a standalone agent, is if we look at the same scenario, when you receive that email and you click on it for the first time, the Citrix Secure Internet Access can validate where you are trying to connect. And there are multiple different tests that can be performed. This can be geolocation, for example. There are certain regions where you don't want to allow your users to go. This can be known bad IP. This can be the URL category. So we know that, for example, this certain website is known to distribute these dangerous payloads. This can be based on the DNS firewall, for example, or it can be just based on the flow of the data. So there are many, many different ways how we can find out that the user, by clicking on the link in his locally installed Outlook, is connecting to some dangerous place. Now, let's say that this is something that was designed specifically only for this single attack. It is not known bad IP. It was specifically crafted only for single attack. What we can do is that when we are downloading the executable or script, we can block the download, for example, based on the MIME header. So we can find out the type of the file and prevent downloading to your local Outlook, or again, local browser of your choice. What we can also do is that when we detect it's executable, we will do the sandboxing and analyze what is it that we are actually downloading. And now, even if you can bypass this somehow, again, what we are going to do is when you are connecting to the command and control server, again, is it known bad IP, bad location? Is it certain category? Can we use the DNS firewall? Many, many options how we can prevent this malware from actually connecting to the command and control server. And finally, if all fails, we do have technology that can detect that this command and control server is doing the callback and it's trying to communicate with our agent, and we can even block it here. So as I said, I'm really excited to talk more about this in Q1 2021 when this is going to be available, but definitely a really cool technology. I'm really excited about this, and as you can see, this can very clearly help with the phishing problem that we have.
Well, Martin, thank you so much. We appreciate always your expertise. Thank you so much for joining us and enlightening us, and we're excited for you to talk more about this in Q1. So we appreciate your time.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
A lot of times, you know, and when we're talking security, you and I are from this workspace background. You know, starting with virtual apps and desktops, we moved into workspace, but we're going to move to a different area that's kind of out of our comfort zone.
Networking.
Yes.
So for this, we're going to invite Frank. He's going to talk about bots. And I think the first question that a lot of our end users will have is, what is a bot? You know, why should I care? I know that was my first question when Dan, when you mentioned we were going to talk about this. So welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. And we're super excited for you to talk to us about bots. So what are they?
Yeah, great to meet you guys, and thanks for having me today. So very briefly, so a bot is really any sort of automation, and I'll walk through this in a little bit more detail. So on the networking, Citrix networking front, So we're thinking more about traffic running to your network or through your network, right? So we're talking about using Citrix products to protect your network from bot attacks, for example. So today we'll talk just about this one piece, the bot corner. So to scope in the problem, depending on who you ask, bots are anywhere from 25 to 50% of all internet traffic. So our friends at Forrester say 37.9, so they're about kind of in the middle. So all internet traffic, right? So tremendous volume of internet traffic. So what bot management does is it's a feature in security software to manage any form of automation. And when we say any form of automation, it means not a human driving it. So it could be somebody running a script. It could be a DDoS attack triggered by many CNC servers that Martin was speaking about. It could also be, say, a macro tool or other form of automation. So the thing with bots is that because it's such a large proportion of internet traffic, the intention of bots is very wide. So it could be something completely harmless. Like it could be, somebody trying to check if their favorite website is up and available or if a page is available. But it could also be a sophisticated nation-state attack that's trying to break into some sort of governmental system within a politically opposing nation. So it's a tremendous range, and the internet is flat. So anyone from anywhere can attack at any time. So some of the most common forms of automation attacks that we see are the ones listed on the left side of the slide. So things like content scraping, trying to pull content off of your site automatically. DDoS attacks is a big one, of course. These are attacks that try to knock down a site for, whether political or other reasons. Account takeover is becoming a bigger and bigger problem, and not just in the financial world, but elsewhere too, where somebody figures out how to log into your account and place fraudulent orders or, get personal information or PII, like healthcare information. Ad fraud is another big problem, and this is one that the ad industry complains a lot about because they lose a lot of money on ad fraud when people are fraudulently clicking videos and ads to give the publisher money, right? It's a big problem. Credit card stuffing and inventory hoarding. So credit card stuffing is the manner of trying to find valid credit card numbers and using them in sort of fraudulent activity. Inventory hoarding. Imagine you are a hotel or an airline and you're selling precious seats or rooms. The last thing you need is some sort of automation holding on to that inventory so it's not available to a real customer. Right? This is a potentially devastating problem. So those are some of the many problems that come with bots. And on the right are some of the features that we use to solve those problems. So I won't dive into too much detail on how they each work, but basically to summarize it, it starts with the simple bots, which are simple scripts that can be easily identifiable by, say, an origin IP or origin domain. It goes to the medium tier bots, which are a little harder to detect, which require things like fingerprinting to find a unique identifier of the device. And it goes to the most advanced attacks, which will really require AIML capabilities. So we're talking about using our machine learning software to figure those attacks out. So in the networking world, because we're talking about something sitting in front of your applications, protecting your applications, the actions available are you can drop, you can reset the connection, you can rate limit, you can also always send it to a CAPTCHA, which is common for people on the internet. So with that, let me just show you real quick on the ADC how this works. So I have my, this is a Citrix ADC platform, application delivery controller. The ADC serves also security features. So this would be something sitting in front of your applications. So I log into my ADC here and go to the security tab to see many of our other security features. So we're here today to talk about bot management. So bot management is very easy to get started with. So if you go here to profiles, what you can do is add a test profile. And when you create that profile, you're right here immediately presented with a list of options of what you want to configure. So there's some straightforward things like a blacklist, whitelist, allow list, deny list, allowing domains or IP or sitter blocks. Our IP reputation filter is very powerful. It updates every 5 minutes, and it has over 5 million IP addresses at any time. So very quickly taking a slice of bad internet traffic away from your applications. You can also use our rate limit as a potential mechanism. So when you enable rate limiting, we can add resources to protect. So say particular URLs or host names that you want to protect. Our bot trap feature is also very powerful. So it injects an invisible link in every page. And so anything browsing that invisible link is definitely automation. So we even dynamically update the URL of our bot trap so that it's hard for an attacker to guess. Our device fingerprinting feature is a simple on-off feature that it attempts to fingerprint a device and determine whether or not something is a bot. And we can also pick things up by TPS, so transactions per second. So basically, if something is running at an unusual rate, network request rate, we can pick that up and also block it. And of course, CAPTCHA is an option to protect certain resources with a mechanism that if you're not sure something is a bot, you want to throw it a CAPTCHA, then you can send it a CAPTCHA as well. So as you see here, with most of these features, it's a simple on-off and configuring resources. So it's a very straightforward feature to get started with, and a lot of value in there. So if you start with, for example, our IP reputation, you start with our device fingerprinting, we also have bot signatures available, you're immediately taking a tremendous portion of bad internet traffic. So one customer who did this, who used just those three features I described, IP reputation, bot trap, and device fingerprinting, this particular customer is a international shipping company. And they told us they had immediately cut over 27% of all internet traffic on their site. There's so much automation hitting them that they immediately solved a big problem.
I would have to imagine that if a lot of these apps are like cloud hosted, you're gonna as the bot traffic keeps increasing, you're gonna have to keep scaling up your infrastructure to support the app, and that's going to end up costing you more and more money as you have more resources. This seems like it's going to help try to pull everything back.
That's absolutely right. Yeah. So it's not just obviously we've mostly focused here that the problems it's causing are more around theft and fraud and so forth. So you're absolutely right. Another problem is that it's unnecessary resource load. And especially when you start to think of larger companies that get hit a lot, right? Like mom and pop restaurant. It's not the end of the world if their site goes briefly offline or gets hit too hard. But you're talking about the Amazons of the world or the other large companies. They can't afford to have their presence be knocked off or have extra resource load.
And Frank, the other thing that I noticed that you didn't mention, but I think it's worth noting, right now you're logged into a VPX. So this is, you don't need that physical appliance. You could use it, whether you have a VPX, MPX, or SDX. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Yeah. So just to clarify, a VPX is a virtual machine of the ADC platform. This is available, of course, in our physical versions as well, the MPX, the SDX. Also available in the cloud version, whether it's Amazon, AWS, or Google Cloud. And last but not least, it's also coming to our new service product. So we released a WAF service product about 3 months ago, and bot mitigation is coming to that service product in Q1. So we're aiming to continue to expand this.
No, that's awesome, Frank. And thank you so much for showing a demo. I know that, our listeners always enjoy seeing it firsthand. So we really appreciate you showing a live demo. And this is really cool. Like Dan and I said, networking is usually over our heads. We usually have to bring in the experts, but, I think this is a problem that we're going to just continue to see. And it's it's great that we have a tool to prevent some of these attacks.
Absolutely.
All righty. Thank you, Frank, for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone.
Awesome. Well, those were two really good, powerful, short and sweet information on, how our customers can just make their environment a little bit more secure. And I think you and I have talked about it in the past, but security isn't one of those things where you kind of just set it and forget it. I think it's always important to revisit it and to see, just what new tools are out there in order to continue to protect your intellectual property, but still give that users the flexibility to be able to, have choice, have flexibility, and work from wherever they want. And now you're muted, Dan.
Oh man, rookie mistake. Yeah, so it's not just about protecting the user, it's also about protecting the app itself. And I think a lot of times when we look at security, it always comes back to that you know, we need strong passwords, we need to be doing this, we need to be doing this, but it's always focused on the user. So it's nice to actually think about the other side of the infrastructure and what we should be securing.
For sure. Well, it was really cool to have Martin and Frank join us. You know, it's always great to have some new voices, so it's not just you and I talking and, you know, putting the crowd to sleep. So I'm very happy that we were able to bring them in and just get more insight into, you know, different ways to secure the environment.
And now I think we have a couple minutes before we start the next section on choice.
Yep. So if you guys don't know, Dan and I will be around for the following section. So be sure to join us, and we'll see you guys soon.